It was early morning and you were in the kitchen preparing breakfast. The warm aroma of eggs and toast filled the air, but your mind was elsewhere. You suddenly remembered that you hadn't given Jungkook his morning coffee yet. Sighing, you poured the dark liquid into a cup, carefully adding the right amount of sugar, just the way he liked it. Holding the cup with both hands, you hesitated for a moment before making your way upstairs. Your heart pounded against your chest as you walked towards his bedroom. The thought of facing him made you anxious. Your marriage had only been 3 months old, and it felt like years. It wasn't a love marriage, it was arranged. His mother adored you and thought you were perfect for her son, even though you came from a middle class family. She believed your kind heart and humble nature were something the rich girls she knew lacked. But Jungkook, he never showed any interest in you. He was cold, distant, and barely spoke unless necessary. You stopped in front of the bedroom door and took a deep breath, gathering the courage to enter. Slowly pushing the door open, you stepped inside. Just then, the bathroom door swung open and Jungkook emerged, a towel loosely wrapped around his waist. His damp hair dripped water down his sculpted chest as he ran his fingers through it, shaking off the excuses droplets. His sharp jawline, broad shoulders, and toned muscles were enough to make any woman weak in the knees. You stood frozen, staring at him, completely lost in your thoughts. He looked like a walking Greek god, effortlessly handsome and dangerously attractive. Your mind wandered, imagining what it would be like if he ever held you close, whispered sweet words, or smiled at you lovingly. What are you doing here? His cold voice snapped you out of your trance. Your body stiffened as your eyes widened in panic. I just came to give you coffee. You stuttered, feeling your cheeks heat up from embarrassment. He hummed, barely acknowledging you. Put it on the nightstand. Nodding quickly, you walked over and placed the cup on the small table beside his bed. As he turned to leave, your eyes unconsciously drifted back to him. He stood in front of the mirror, fixing his damp hair. He looked perfect, too perfect. You wanted to say something, to talk to him, to break the unbearable silence between you two. But your words refused to leave your mouth, your hands clenched into fists as you struggled to gather the courage to speak. Jungkook, noticing your lingering presence, sighed and turned to you. What? His voice was sharp, impatient. You quickly shook your head and not lowered your gaze. Nothing. Without another word, you turned around and left the room, your heart sinking. The rest of the day passed in silence. You focused on your chorus, keeping yourself busy to avoid thinking about Jungkook. But deep down, you longed for his warmth, something he never gave you. That night, you sat alone in the living room, reading a book. It was late, and Jungkook still hadn't come downstairs for dinner. You debated whether to call him or just let him be. You didn't want to anger him. After some hesitation, you made your way to his room again. You knocked softly before stepping inside. Jungkook, dinner is ready. He was sitting at his desk working on his laptop. He didn't even glance at you. I'm not hungry, he muttered. But you didn't eat anything the whole day, you said softly. At least have something. I said I'm not hungry. He snapped, his tone sharp and cold. You flinched at his harsh voice, taking a step back. Okay, your voice was barely above a whisper. Feeling embarrassed and hurt, you quickly turned and left the room, your eyes stinging with unshed tears. You didn't understand why he was always like this. What had you done to deserve this treatment? The next afternoon, as you were cleaning the living room, the doorbell rang. Wiping your hands on your apron, you walked to the door and opened it. To your surprise, Jungkook's younger sister Jia stood there with a bright smile on her face. Jia, you said, blinking in surprise. What a surprise! Hi, Wan, she greeted cheerfully. Without thinking, you pulled her into a warm hug. It had been a while since you last saw her, and despite everything, you always felt comfortable around her. Come in, you said, stepping aside. Gia walked in, looking around as she set her purse down on the table. You both sat on the couch and started chatting about your in laws who lived in another house. She told you about her parents and how they were doing. Why didn't you call me before coming? You asked, smiling. She shrugged. I had a client meeting nearby and thought of visiting you. Okay, you nodded. That's nice of you. You got up and went to the kitchen, quickly preparing some juice and snacks for her. When you returned, she took the glass and sipped the juice while both of you continued chatting about random things. You and Gia were the same age, and your bond had always been easy and friendly. You shared secrets, laughed over silly things, and for a while, you forget about your problems. But then Gia moved the glass. It slipped from her hand, and the juice spilled all over her dress. Oh no, you gasped. Go and change. Gia stood up, looking at the stain. Ah, where are your clothes? Come, I'll show you, you said, leading her upstairs to your bedroom. As she stepped inside, her eyes softly wandered across the room. Something felt different. The room looked nothing like her brother's space. Jungkook never liked daisies at her. They were placed neatly in a vase on the bedside table. She walked to the cupboard and opened it, scanning the shelves. Her eyes searched carefully, but she didn't find what she was looking for. Frowning slightly, she went into the bathroom to change again. She looked around, but there were no signs of Jungkook's presence, none of his body wash, none of his creams, nothing that indicated he stayed in this room. Her suspicion grew stronger. After changing, she went downstairs, finding you in the kitchen preparing herbal tea. He turned with a small smile and handed her the cup. She took a sip and then, after a pause, looked at you seriously. Wine, are you happy with my brother? Your smile faded as you lowered your gaze. You didn't know how to answer her. After a moment, you forced a small, fake smile and said, Yes. Gia shook her head. Don't lie, Wine. Your eyes are saying the truth. I can understand you. Your heart pounded as you swallowed hard. You didn't want to say anything, but Gia wasn't going to let it go. When I went to your room, I didn't see Jungkook's clothes. She continued, You both are living in separate rooms, right? You nodded slowly, feeling ashamed. I don't know what I did, but Jungkook doesn't act loving with me. He respects me, and that's okay, but I don't feel like he likes me. His behavior, it feels like he hates me. Your voice cracked slightly as you looked at her with teary eyes. Am I at fault? Gia sighed and reached for your hand, squeezing it gently. No, Vine, it's all because of me. You looked at her, surprised. Because of you? She nodded, exhaling deeply. Yes, Vine, my divorce affected him a lot. You know that June and I were in love for 3 years before we got married. But we still ended up getting divorced. We had our reasons, but Jungkook, he admired our relationship. He believed in it, and when it suddenly broke, he couldn't take it. You listened intently, your heart aching for Jungkook. I told him that every relationship is different. I convinced him to go through with this marriage because I believed you were perfect for him, but now I think he's scared to start something with you, thinking it will end the same way mine did. He doesn't want to break your heart. Tears welled in your eyes as you listened to her words. So this was why Jungkook was distant, not because he hated you, but because he was afraid. Jia held your hands tightly and said, "When I'm requesting you to take the first step, my brother isn't used to express emotions. He's afraid of relationships, but he doesn't hate you. He just needs time. Try to be friendly with him and act close to him. Show him that you won't leave once he realizes that you truly love him and will stay by his side." You gulped, holding back your tears. "Do you really think he can change?" "I know he will," Jia assured you. "Just give him time." You nodded, wiping your tears away. "Okay, I will try." Jia gave you a warm smile and patted your hand. She stayed a little longer, chatting and comforting you before finally getting up to leave. As you walked her to the door, she turned to you one last time and said, "Don't give up on him while he needs you more than he knows." You watched as she left, her words echoing in your mind. Maybe there was hope after all. The evening felt different today after Gia's words. You had a new hope for this marriage, a hope that maybe, just maybe, Jungkook would see you differently one day. With that in mind, you prepared all his favorite dishes for dinner. The kitchen was filled with the aroma of warm food, and you made sure everything was set perfectly. As soon as you heard the sound of the front door opening, your heart raced. You quickly wiped your hands on your apron and walked toward him with a genuine smile. "Welcome home, Jungkook," you greeted softly. He stopped in his tracks for a second, his dark eyes scanning your face. You noticed how his eyebrows lifted slightly, as if he was surprised by your warm greeting. He hummed, slipping off his shoes. You followed him to the dining table where you had set the dishes neatly. "I made your favorite food today. Please have dinner first," you said, pulling out a chair for him. Jungkook sat down silently and picked up his chopsticks. He took a bite of the food, his jaw moving slowly as he chewed. You sat across from him, waiting anxiously for his reaction. Would he compliment you? Would he say something cold again? He didn't say anything, but he kept eating. That itself was a good sign. "Do you like it?" you asked, hoping for some acknowledgement. He glanced at you before nodding slightly. "It's good," he said, his voice softer than usual. Your heart lifted a little. He didn't say much, but he wasn't cold either. This was a progress. Days passed and you kept trying. You stopped acting scared around him. You spoke to him naturally, smiled more, and treated him with warmth, even when he didn't respond. Slowly, you noticed changes in him too. He wasn't as cold as before. He didn't ignore you completely. Sometimes, when he came home and saw you, his expression softened for a brief moment before he masked it with indifference. And then one evening, everything shattered. Jungkook was home early that day, but he wasn't in a good mood. You heard him yelling on the phone. The moment he entered the house, his voice was sharp and full of frustration. "What do you mean he withdrew the contract?" He barked at someone. You peeked into the living room and saw him pacing back and forth. His jaw clenched tightly, his fingers ran through his hair in frustration. "This was the biggest deal of the year, and you messed it up. I don't need excuses. Fix it," he yelled before hanging up. His shoulders were tense, his breathing heavy. You hesitated for a moment before stepping closer. You didn't want to see him like this. He was always carrying too much stress. Maybe, just maybe, you could make him feel better. So without thinking much, you wrapped your arms around him from behind. "It's okay, Jungkook," you whispered, resting your head on his back. "Please calm down." For a moment he stood still. You could feel his heartbeat against your cheek, but then he moved. He broke the hug. He grabbed your wrist and pulled you in front of him, his dark eyes full of anger. Locked down 2 years. What nonsense are you doing? He snapped. Can't you see I'm already frustrated and you want romance? Your heart stopped. Romance. Was that what he thought you were doing? You weren't trying to be romantic, you were just trying to comfort him. I thought, you started, your voice trembling. I just wanted to calm you. No need, he cut you off sharply. I know how to calm myself. Don't do these things without asking me. The finality in his touch crushed you. He didn't even look at you anymore. Without another word, he turned and walked away, leaving you standing there frozen. Your hands trembled, your lips quivered, you felt a sharp sting in your chest. Tears gathered in your eyes. Slowly you turned around and walked away, your steps weak and unsteady. You went straight to your room, closing the door behind you before collapsing onto the couch. The night sky was visible through the window, filled with twinkling stars. You stared at them blankly, your mind replaying his words over and over again. I want romance, but I was just trying to calm him. Your throat ached as you swallowed back your sobs. No one had ever spoken to you like that before, not even your parents. They had always treated you with kindness, but Jungkook, he made you feel like a burden, like an annoyance. You curled up on the couch, hugging yourself tightly. The tears you had been holding back finally spilled down your cheeks. Why did it hurt so much? Because you had started hoping, because for the first time you thought this relationship could work. But now you weren't so sure anymore. The night sleep never came, no matter how hard you tried. Your mind wouldn't let you rest. Jungkook's harsh words echoed in your ears, and your heart felt heavier than ever. By morning, you made a decision you wouldn't try anymore. You wouldn't force something that was never meant to work. From now on, you would stop hoping. The next morning, you stepped out of your bedroom and suddenly faced Jungkook. You didn't smile, didn't say anything, and simply walked past him, heading downstairs. Jungkook's eyes followed you, confusion and guilt flickering in them. You no longer greeted him with a warm smile or prepared his coffee like you usually did. You didn't make his extra favorite breakfast. Instead, you simply served him when he came to the dining table and then left. You didn't say goodbye when he left for the office, nor did you welcome him home in the evening. Your expressions were flat and words minimal. You were distancing yourself from him, and Jungkook could feel every inch of that distance. Jungkook felt guilt eating alive him. He tried multiple times to apologize, but you never gave him a chance. The coldness in your eyes hurt him more than your words ever could. In the office, he was absent minded. His employees noticed his distracted behavior. He couldn't concentrate on meetings. His thoughts kept circling back to you, to your silence, to the pain he saw in your eyes. Finally, one day, he decided that he could no longer take this distance. He left the office in the middle of the day and drove straight home. You were sitting in the living room scrolling through your phone when you saw him enter. You didn't even look surprised. Before he could say anything, you said, "Let's get separated, Jungkook." Jungkook's heart broke instantly. He stared at you, his breath caught in his throat. What? I don't think this relationship will sustain, you said in a calm voice. I tried, Jungkook. I really did. But I don't see it working. His eyes filled with panic as he took a step toward you. Why no? Please don't say that. Jia told me about you. You continued, your voice breaking slightly. I thought maybe, just maybe, I could help you heal. I wanted to give this marriage a chance, but now I don't think I can do it anymore. Jungkook clenched his fist, trying to control the storm of emotions in his chest. Then, as if suddenly remembering something, he turned and rushed to the bedroom. He came back holding a small diary and handed it to you. You frowned, looking at him in confusion. What is this? Open it and see. He whispered. With shaky hands, he opened the diary, your eyes widened in shock as you flipped through the pages. There were pictures of you, moments you didn't even remember happening. Jungkook giving you a rose, Jungkook placing his hand on your shoulder while you both had coffee, Jungkook playfully splashing water at you. It was like a hidden world of memories, moments that had never truly happened but had been captured. Tears fell onto the pages as if flipped to the next one. Each page had a single sentence written in bold letters, I love you, Vine. You slowly lifted your gaze to Jungkook. He was watching you with desperation in his eyes. Yes, Vine, I love you, he confessed, his voice trembling. All these emotions, all these imaginations, I wanted to live them with you. But I didn't have the courage. I was scared of ruining it. It took me so long to realize that we could have a great and strong relationship, that we could be happy. He took a deep breath, his hands slightly shaking. Please don't leave me, Wild. I know I hurt you. I know I made you feel unwanted, but I never hated you. I was just scared. I didn't know how to love you properly, but I want to learn. Please give me a chance to prove myself. Before he could respond, he suddenly dropped to his knees in front of you. Your heart clenched at the sight. Jungkook, the man who rarely showed emotions, was kneeling before you, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. I'm sorry, he whispered, his voice cracking. That I was angry, and I said things I didn't mean. Please try to understand me. I'll change. I'll prove it to you. Just don't leave me while I won't be able to take it. Your eyes softened as you watched him. You had heard once that Jungkook never cried, that the only time he cried was when his mother threatened to leave him, and now he was crying in front of you, begging you to stay in his life. Slowly you kneeled down in front of him and kissed his face. Do you genuinely love me? You asked, softly searching his eyes. Jungkook nodded desperately, his tears slipping down his cheeks. As mine, with all my heart. You took a deep breath, blinking away your own tears, then leaning forward, you pressed a gentle kiss to his forehead. I will give you a chance, you whispered, your voice barely above a breath. But Jungkook, if you fail to prove yourself, then please, let's end it here. Jungkook's eyes widened slightly before he quickly wiped his tears, nodded. I won't fail, Ryan, I promise. Without another word, he wrapped his arms around you, pulling you into a tight embrace. You could feel his heart pounding against your own, his grip almost desperate, as if he was afraid that you would disappear if he let go. And for the first time in months, you felt warmth in his embrace. You felt hope, a new beginning, a new chance. Maybe, just maybe, this relationship wasn't as hopeless as you had thought. Good morning, love, Jungkook whispered, his voice deep and filled with warmth. You blinked in surprise as he handed you a cup of coffee. You made this, you asked, taking the cup. Jungkook chuckled and sat beside you. Of course, you always made coffee for me. Now it's my turn to take care of you. A soft smile formed on your lips as he took a sip, savoring not just the taste but the love behind his gesture. Jungkook pulled you into his embrace, his arms warm and secure around you. I love you, one, he murmured, brushing his nose against yours. Your heart swelled with happiness. I love you too, Jungkook, you replied, resting your head against his chest, listening to the rhythmic beat of his heart. As the days passed, your bond grew stronger. Jungkook was no longer the distant and cold husband you once knew. He made efforts every day, whether it was bringing you flowers, taking you out on spontaneous dates, or simply holding your hand while watching a movie. He started expressing his feelings more openly, never letting a day pass. One evening, while walking together in the garden, you turned to him and asked, Jungkook, do you think our arranged marriage was a mistake? He stopped and looked at you, his eyes filled with sincerity. No, mine, it was the best thing that had ever happened to me. You smiled and leaned your head against his shoulder. I used to think love marriages were the only way to find happiness, but realized love isn't about how a relationship starts, it's about how two people nurture it. Jungkook nodded. Love marriages, arranged marriages, none of them guarantee happiness. It's the people in the relationship who make it work or let it fall apart. Divorce happens not because love fades, but because effort does. And I promise I will never stop. A tear of happiness slipped down your cheek as he kissed your forehead once again. And I promise the same, Jungkook, will make this work together. Thank you for watching. If you like the story, then please subscribe.